Time.
It is.
Time? Okay. I call to order the March 2017 meeting of the Lafayette Common Council. Will you please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance to our flag?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay.
Those are mine. Yes.
Will the clerk please conduct a roll call?
Heidi,
Here.
Clinker,
Here.
Reynolds,
What did I do?
Campbell,
Here.
Brown,
Here.
Allersmeyer. Here. Williamson.
Here.
Downing,
Here.
Nargi.
Here.
Quorum present.
Okay, you've received the minutes of the February meeting. Are there any corrections? Mr. Campbell?
I move the minutes be approved as communicated.
Mr.
Clinker.
Clinker.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, next. Presentation of and disposal of claims.
There are none.
Presentation of petitions and communications.
There are none.
Reports of city offices on file in the city clerk's office.
Fleet maintenance monthly January, Waterworks Department monthly January, Water Pollution Control Department monthly January, and annual report for 2016.
Okay, and all these reports are on file at the clerk's office and can be viewed during regular business hours. Okay, ordinances for second reading. Ordinance 2017-07.
An ordinance to add new section 7.06.360 and amend section 7.06.990 to prohibit parking outside on-street parking space markings.
What's the, Mr. Brown?
Madam President, I move that we hear and approve ordinance 2017-07 on second reading. I'll learn to speak in a minute.
Second.
Okay. Any comments, concerns? Okay.
Good evening, City Council. It is a pleasure to see you all from this side of the dais. My name is Steve Plank, and
And your address, please.
400 South 7th Street, Lafayette, Indiana, a block from the Nargi establishment. And as many of you know, I assisted with getting the Parking Commission started and several other parking issues back in my tenure on Redevelopment Commission and on City Council. And this one kind of caught me off guard, and I was a little concerned about it and wanted to send an email out to you all, but I didn't get it done. So I'm here tonight to speak about it, and I have talked to several others. And I just want you to take a step back and say, have we studied this properly? Have we got the right language here? Is this really what we need? Typically, demarcation of parking spaces and parallel parking is done for enforcement of the lines, is done for communities that have parking meters that are trying to track a particular number to a parking space, and it becomes important there. The advantage of demarcation of lines has been studied over the years, and back when I was doing this, I would have been able to show studies that say we're going to lose parking spaces because of this, and there's still some debate about that, but some recent studies show that not only does it, not only do the lines help assist drivers in getting parked, it also assists with traffic flow because you're creating much longer spaces if you take a look. And it helps in traffic flow in that people aren't trying to get in and out, and they get in and out easier, and so the traffic moves better. But from the standpoint of what we're doing to our customer base, I ask you to take a look at the block of the Tippecanoe County Office Building. There's 4 spaces there on the north side of the Tippecanoe County Office Building that are marked currently. And on the day that I happened to look at it, there were 3 cars parked there. And this one, and this one. And as you look at that, you can see that there's a wide open space in the front. And as you look at the next 2 cars behind that one, you can see they're nicely parked. But as we examine it closer, starting with that one on the far end of the block, you can see he's backed right up against the line. You can see the line there. The next car is parked towards the front of the space. which leaves a wide open space there. That's fine, we don't really care. But that car, depending on your definition of what's a violation, which isn't defined in the law, would theoretically be over the marks. And if your case, the next car in line is way over the mark, see, the tangent point of his wheel is well beyond the mark. So then that brings the question of who defines what's over the mark? We don't do that in the ordinance. So do we leave it up to the enforcement officers? Does it vary between the enforcement officers that work for the city or the ones that are third-party contractors that we hire to walk the streets? What we do today, does it work 10 years from now when we decide to contract the whole thing out again? And you've got a company that's trying to make a profit by working there? So are the lines at the end of the car? Or are they at the tangent point of the wheel? We don't define that. Currently, I say currently, back when I was involved with this, we defined a yellow line violation as the tangent point of the wheel where the radius hits the perpendicular as being the point of violation. Well, that can become a problem. Just randomly looking around, you can see other situations that would be in violation, but there are no fewer cars parked in the block, and nobody really has a problem because of these. But somebody with a 2-hour violation, now the officer comes along and gives them a 2-hour ticket, and now they've got a $40 ticket because he notices that he was hired to enforce the law, and the law says he's over the mark. Same way in this block. Once again, this car is over the mark, but it's not causing any problems for anybody. In fact, I was hard pressed to find any. Also, what about this guy? There's nothing in the law that prevents your enforcement officers from giving this Federal Express truck a ticket. And I guarantee you it will happen. So I ask you to take a step back and say, maybe we ought to study this a little more. Did the parking commission study this? Did they approve this before it came to you?
Not on it.
So maybe it
Did not.
Maybe it might be a good idea for an intern this summer to walk around and say, here's all the violations in the morning in June. Did we have any violation that actually caused a problem? Will we do anything to improve our downtown by doing this? We have diagonal lines now on 7th Street, and you know that we don't want somebody parking down the middle of that. I agree with that. But we don't separate between diagonals and this. We've had diagonal lines in our parking garage for as long as it's been there, and yet we've never had an ordinance, ever. We've managed those lines. Why do we need an ordinance now to manage lines that are still being applied to the streets and we don't really know if there's going to be a problem yet or not? Does it just become another hassle for parking? And really, in some situations, those lines are hard to see. What happens when it snows at 8 o'clock in the morning, and the sun comes out at 9, and at 9:30 the officer comes along and gives you a ticket? Where's your proof that you couldn't see the lines? It really doesn't matter because that doesn't work when I speed on the interstate, and I say, I didn't see the sign. So, things to think about. I don't think we thought through this enough. And I understand because of in talking to Kevin, he left a message that because of the new landscaping islands that we're putting, that we wanted to do this because of those short areas to park, like out in front of East End Grill and things like that. And that is where demarcation of the lines works the best, according to studies, when there are 2 or 3 or 4 spaces. You actually start to lose spaces in long blocks like you have on South Street. So that's my 2 cents, and I would propose that you table this for further study and look at it this summer and study actually if it really is a problem and ask for the proof and the data to look at that, as opposed, make a data-driven decision as opposed to what we have now. And it might result in an ordinance, but it might result in an ordinance that says, with exceptions of delivery vehicles, with the exceptions of or trucks that are delivering over a certain size, it might have exceptions for weather-related markings that occurred at any time during the day, like other communities across the nation have done, but I couldn't find a single community without parking meters that had this kind of ordinance, so, thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Any council members like to speak to any of those concerns or the legal issue as far as?
I'm parked out in front here. The parking spaces are really easy to get between the lines. There weren't any other cars parked there, but you still park between the lines, not across the lines. One of the issues is we're trying to maximize parking in the downtown area, so we've created a lot of parking spaces that didn't have parking spaces before. It's appropriate to mark those spaces, and I believe it's appropriate to let citizens know that they should park within those spaces. I've got a big car, it fits easily, smaller cars will fit easily. I think there's 10 spaces in this block in front of City Hall. I think our parking enforcement officer wanted to have something that would allow him to have the authority to issue a warning or ticket to somebody that consistently violates, just like it is on the 2-hour parking and the other parking things. We're not going to ticket a truck that takes up 2 parking spaces because they're across the lines. I mean, that's just not anything that anybody with any sense would do, whether it's in the ordinance or not. So, I don't believe that it's an issue. It gives our parking enforcement officers, which we do in-house, some discretion to say, you're consistently taking up 2 spaces. If you move a foot farther, because you lose those spaces. So I think the ordinance is adequate. It's a $20 fine. It just adds an additional element that the parking enforcement officer can use. You've got $20 for overtime parking, you got $50 for fire lane parking, $20 for stopping in a no parking zone, $20 for parking against the lawful flow. They're just all basic common sense to maximize the parking that we have in the downtown area.
If I could respond, I totally appreciate the efforts to maximize the parking, which has been a great effort, especially along South Street, which I fought for back at the time of railroad relocation. But I have seen where, especially third-party parking vendors, including the one we have now, follow the law to the strictest point of the letter. I just sent an email to, this was in the fall, to the mayor and to Kevin concerning your street officer was giving a ticket to a truck parked in the alley, fine James, a beer truck. And I asked him why he's giving a ticket. He said, because he doesn't have his flashers on and that's the law. I said, buddy, I helped write this law. I know that's not in it. And I went back, got the code, and sent emails out so that they report the ticket. There is no law that says while you're parked in an alley, you have to have your flashers on. There is if you're in the street. That's an example of a guy who says, that's the law. Everybody knows that's a beer truck making a delivery in the middle of an alley. You're not going to buy it. What point? There was a common sense case where he's following the law. And Israel does a fantastic job downtown. The very first one. I really like what he's doing. But, we've had a lot of restaurants having problems here lately. We just don't need to add another burden to that without making sure it's really going to be effective. You absolutely may be right. It may be needed and effective, but maybe just the demarcation of the line will help people parking and warning tickets here and there. We'll get those repeat violators in line. We don't just ticket the 2-hour violators that are repeat violators, like you implied. We ticket them the very first time we do it.
Yeah.
And that's an important thing to do. I'm not saying that's a problem, but let's not turn a $20 ticket into a $40 ticket for literally what would be a third of the people parking downtown. Drive up and down the streets during the day. See how many people are violating the block.
Mr. Mayor, would you like to comment?
I wasn't going to speak, but Steve brought it out in me like the old days, so. No, I appreciate his comments, and I appreciate him coming. He's done a lot for downtown, and I know that he cares, and he's doing it for the right reasons. But with that being said, I mean, this is part of what we heard from merchants when we were looking at this, at the way people were parking downtown, and that they felt marking on the streets would help with that situation, help keep people, get as many spaces as possible. I'm sure there are studies that show it goes both ways, whether it improves or doesn't improve. But we think it's a good first step. As you know, Israel does do a great job. Steve did email me. That was clear back in the summer when he was just first starting here. He's doing a great job. Our parking people use discretion. And everything is discretion, right? How many inches are you from the curb? It says 12, but do we do 12 or 13, or are you that exact foot from the stop sign? Policemen have discretion whether you arrest somebody for PI or you don't arrest somebody for PI. I mean, so discretion, when you're doing enforcement work, there is always discretion that has to take place. We've said from the very beginning, parking downtown is about being ambassadors also, and I think Kevin Harris and his group does a tremendous job. It is a balance between keeping people moving and opening those spaces up for additional customers to come downtown and to find that balance. It's not a perfect science. We do it in-house, and I think the in-house service that we provide, and Israel is a contract employee, but he reports to Kevin. I think the in-service in-house that we do is much better when we were doing it with a private contractor, plus we're saving a lot of money, and I would not anticipate us going back to a private contractor. But if we did for some reason, and it's a very simple ordinance, it wouldn't take much to come and change it if we felt like it needed to be changed at that point. And again, I won't belabor it, but it does rub me just the wrong way just a little bit to bring up the 3 restaurants. I mean, it was unfortunate that one of the gentleman's partners absconded with money that he was supposed to be paying their taxes with. That's not City of Lafayette related, nor is it parking related. It's not our fault that somebody let their pipes freeze and burst and flooded a restaurant downtown. Again, that's not a parking issue, nor is that a problem with what the City of Lafayette's doing. And the people at the Heirloom said they raised the rent, almost doubled it, and 50%, and just wasn't something they could do. And so I would appreciate you passing this ordinance. We will certainly continue to monitor it, and if there needs to be tweaks made as we go along, we'll certainly do that.
Thank you.
One question. Mr. Mayor, we are handling this in-house, right?
Yeah, Kevin Harris, and he's got 2 people that work for him. They're City of Lafayette employees. Israel is the contract employee through Securitas that walks around downtown with the uniform on, and I tell you, I get nothing but praise from the people, the job he's
So
doing.
since we are doing this in-house, then we can basically set the parameters by which this ordinance is enforced, right?
Yeah, Kevin Harris reports directly to me.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
So-
Mr. Klinker?
So my assumption is too, then, the painting is the front bumper and the back bumper, right? It's not the tire, it's not the,
I mean, common sense would say that you get your front, there's plenty of room to get your front bumper in the line and your back bumper in the
Right,
line.
okay.
But I think, as the mayor indicated, there's discretion, and if you're 6 inches over, nobody's going to get a ticket for that.
so our main responsibility is keeping the lines painted so they're visible and making sure that Israel, or whoever's doing that, knows that if it just snowed that morning, they're there the whole time. They don't leave for 4 hours and come back, so they would know, okay, the snow just showed.
A small amount of tickets. Most tickets are written by the people in the car that have the computer system in it and the camera system that's taking pictures of everything, which will take a picture of the car, where it's at, inside the markings. And
Okay.
Okay, any other comments from the council or the audience?
Taken care of by the clerk's office? Or
They pay him
do
in
you
our
have much
office.
of a conflict when you're there?
Yes and no, but there's also the appeal process too, that the customers can appeal with Kevin, and they can do that online or in writing.
Well, I think that since the mayor says that this will be examined by other people, and some of the little twerks or clinks clicked out of there, that it's time to pass it.
Okay, any other comments from the audience? Okay, will the clerk conduct a roll call vote on ordinance 2017-07?
Heidi?
Aye.
Clinker?
Aye.
Campbell?
Aye.
Brown?
Aye.
Allersmeyer?
Aye.
Williamson?
Aye.
Downing?
Aye.
Ordinance passes 7-0.
Okay, next is ordinance 2017-10.
In order to transfer money from the general fund to rainy day fund.
Okay, do we have a motion?
I move that we hear and approve ordinance 2017-10. Second.
Okay. Mr. Jones?
Madam President, council members, Mike Jones, Controller. I'm asking to transfer $200,000 from the general fund to the rainy day fund. As we finished last year, we had some savings due to a pretty mild winter for most part. So we used less overtime, less salt, less fuel. And I would like to take those savings and move them to the rainy day fund so that as we go forward and try to meet the requirements of the Governmental Finance Officers Association, that we try to build these funds, these rainy day funds and safety funds up to a level that they deem appropriate. And I would ask your support in doing this.
Thank you.
What is the balance of that fund?
It is now over 4 million. It's at 4,005,000.
And what does the state say that we should have?
Well, the Governmental Finance Officers Association recommend a fund of about 15%. This is not at 15% yet, but we are over 10%. And certainly 15% would give you 8 weeks of operations before you had to go borrow money. Right now, we're just under 6 weeks where we're at. And yeah, we do have the edit reserve, so we can meet that 8 weeks, but it'd be nice to have that in place should we ever need it.
Well, that's 15% of our total budget?
Of the general fund operating budget, correct.
Any other questions or comments from the council or the audience, the public? Okay, will the clerk conduct a roll call vote on ordinance 2017-10?
Heidi?
Aye.
Clinker?
Aye.
Campbell?
Aye.
Brown?
Aye.
Allersmeyer?
Aye.
Williamson?
Aye.
Downing?
Aye.
Ordinance passes 7-0.
Okay, the next one, ordinances for first reading. Ordinance 2017-11.
An ordinance to amend the Lafayette Municipal Code to add new section 8.01.370, preservation of brick streets.
Mr. Campbell?
I move for passage of that ordinance.
Okay,
Second.
second, okay. Yes,
I'd also request that it be tabled for further study. We have set up a tentative meeting for the 22nd of March at 5 o'clock to meet with the ordinance committee again and a interested patron of the city or citizen of the city to look at some things. And Mr. Chosnick has talked about, again, doing some little changes in it. But it's going to be basically, I think, what we have seen presently on the ordinance that was submitted,
okay.
with just a few changes.
So let's get this
I would
clear.
move that it be tabled.
You moved that it be tabled, okay?
Time definite, which would be, what would it be, April 3rd?
March 22nd.
No,
April 3rd is the
next
Next meeting.
council meeting.
Okay, and then you moved to second it to be tabled.
Second.
Right.
For tabling.
For
Yes.
tabling, okay, okay. Any other comments or concerns from the audience or from council members?
Is the meeting here in the chambers?
Yes,
Beg your pardon?
Meetings in the chambers?
Yes, ma'am.
The committee meeting will be here.
the committee meeting
Yes.
here on the 22nd at 5 o'clock.
Chances are we'll have people here who want to talk to us about it.
Okay, any other, okay, so we
to
vote
vote
on
on
the
it.
tabling. Okay, will the clerk conduct a roll call vote on the tabling of ordinance 2017-11?
Heidi?
Aye.
Clinker?
Aye.
Campbell?
Aye.
Brown?
Aye.
Allersmeyer?
Aye.
Williamson?
Aye.
Downing?
Aye.
Tabling passes.
Okay, okay,
Table to the next meeting.
that's 11, okay. Next one, ordinance 2017-12.
An ordinance of the Common Council of the City of Lafayette, Indiana, approving an authorized payment in lieu of taxes pilot agreement with Glasswater Creek of Lafayette LLC for Glasswater Creek of Lafayette.
Okay, what's the council's pleasure? Mr. Downing?
I move to hear and approve ordinance 2017-12.
Mrs. Williamson? Okay.
Madam President, ladies and gentlemen of the council, thank you this evening. Before you is an ordinance, as you've heard, for a payment in lieu of taxes or a pilot agreement with the Glasswater Creek of Lafayette. And I'm going to allow Mr. Chosnick to discuss the legal aspect and how that process actually works. But I do want to say again how we know that this assisted living facility is very important to our community. This has been a very good group to work with. We're happy with the design, we're happy with the services, and very excited for this project to go forward. We thank you for your work last time on helping with some of the issues to make that a reality. We're also excited that we have someone who is interested in doing a pilot agreement to help offset some potential costs for police and fire service in that area. So this is a good, positive step, but it is the first time that this council will be doing something like this, and I'll let Mr. Chosnick explain the legal piece of this, and then I'll step back up if there's any questions at the end.
The ordinance approves a pilot agreement that's attached to the ordinance. Basically, Glasswater Creek of Lafayette is an affiliate of CRF Affordable Housing, which is an Indiana nonprofit public benefit corporation that's exempt from taxation. And I think you're familiar with the project, 133 units, charitable housing, charitable services to low-income elderly. They have to be 62 years or older, and I think we've heard that the average age is around 81 years. Because they're getting tax credits, they have to agree to keep this in an affordable senior housing limit for 30 years to match the tax credits. So the pilot agreement also goes for 30 years. And what they've agreed to do is pay, as kind of a public safety payment, let's see if I can find it here, $56,500 maybe.
Yeah, it was.
156,000.
Yes. But anyhow, it's basically what we determined was it'd be appropriate because even though they don't use some of the city services, they do use and will use police and fire, and they were willing to pay that amount annually in lieu of taxes. They're going to be filing their tax exemption, but that amounts to be paid. There is some issue with the state legislature about pilots, and so we have provided in this agreement that notwithstanding whatever happens with the state in terms of saying you can't enter into pilot agreements, this is going to be converted to a public safety agreement in consideration for the city's cooperation and providing the bonding conduit that is your next ordinance, and also our support for the project.
What is the state's opposition to this type of assessment, so to speak? Because we would get nothing
Yeah.
if it
Well,
weren't for that.
I don't think I can comment on what goes on in Indianapolis in the legislatures.
We try.
I have no idea. I mean, no, I don't, if I make a comment, I'll be in trouble, so no comment. But because that's going on, we've put a provision in here that makes it basically a contract for payment of public safety purposes.
So this has never been done?
No, the city of Bloomington did one recently for a similar type of project, although I think I mentioned at caucus, they were only able to get $10,000 a year.
We got 56?
And we got 56, and the city of Hammond also did one within the past year.
Good.
I can have a question.
And we have Matt Carr here, who's represents the Glasswater Creek, that can, is able to answer any other questions that related to the agreement and the ordinance.
Mr. Brown?
Yes, I was wondering, what if on the off chance, I guess the cost of us providing services to this institution exceed $56,000 a year?
Well, I think that, we provide services to a lot of other institutions that pay no taxes as well as no pilot payments. I think that's
I think
Just the way
Ed's
it
exactly
is.
right. That 56,500 at the time of the agreement was the equivalent of the salary of one police officer for the city of Lafayette, and we thought that was very fair. And as Ed said, you have lots of not-for-profit tax-exempt organizations like the two hospitals that, I mean, we do lots of police and fire runs and assist in some of those things, and we don't get taxes from a lot of different organizations. And so being able to enter into this agreement, and as Ed said, having the stipulation in case the legislature removes our local authority and our local control, to be able to do that, to provide and fund our services that we need here in the community, he's crafted a way that we can go into then a private contract agreement. And again, I'd like to thank Glasswater Creek. I think 56,000 is very fair. It was a good amount for us, and otherwise it would be nothing, and they were willing to do that, and we certainly appreciate. So in the scheme of things, we're actually much better off than we could be.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions or comments from the council or the audience? Okay. Will the clerk conduct a roll call vote on ordinance 2017-12?
Heidi?
Aye.
Clinker?
Aye.
Campbell?
Aye.
Brown?
Aye.
Allersmeyer?
Aye.
Williamson?
Aye.
Downing?
Aye.
Ordinance passes 7-0.
Okay, ordinance 2017-13.
An ordinance of the Common Council of the City of Lafayette, Indiana, authorizing the issuance of economic development revenue bonds in one or more series in the aggregate principal amount not to exceed $18,600,000, and approving and authorizing other actions in respect thereto.
Mr. Heidi?
Move to hear ordinance number 2017-13.
Mr. Clinker?
Second?
Okay.
What I'd like to do is introduce Tenley Drescher Rhodes from Baker, who's the bond counsel, primarily for the purpose of assuring the council that the city is merely a conduit, and I'll let her speak, so go ahead.
Hello, council members, mayor. As your attorney just said, my name is Tenley Drescher Rhodes. I'm with the law firm of Faegre Baker Daniels. We are serving as bond counsel for this project. I believe the mayor and Mr. Chosnick have done a good job of describing the projects.
Yep.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, there you go. I believe the mayor and Mr. Chosnick have done a very good job of describing the project, so I won't belabor that. But I did want to point out what I believe is a very important part of this project and of this ordinance specifically, and that is if you look at Section 3, which is on page 3, the next to the last sentence in that section does state affirmatively that the bonds will be payable as to principal and interest solely from payments made by the borrower, the project owner, pursuant to the documents. And the last sentence states that the bond shall never constitute a general obligation of, an indebtedness of, or a charge against the general credit of the city. That means that these bonds won't affect the city's credit rating. They won't count against the city's debt limit, and they are not payable in any way from any city revenues. I'd entertain any other questions you have, but I did want to point out that language that's in the document.
Okay, any other questions or concerns from the council, from the audience? Thank you. Okay, will the clerk conduct a roll call vote for ordinance 2017-13?
Heidi?
Aye.
Clinker?
Aye.
Campbell?
Aye.
Brown?
Aye.
Allersmeyer?
Aye.
Williamson?
Aye.
Downing?
Aye.
Ordinance passes 7-0.
Okay, tonight there are no resolutions. Reports of standing committees. Any reports? Reports of special committees. Reports by the mayor. Nothing. Miscellaneous and new business. Reports of council people. No. Okay, now's the time for public comment. If anyone from the audience would like to speak, you need to state your name and address. You have 3 minutes, and please be respectful and courteous to everyone.
Hi, my name's John Barton, live 1601 Sherwood Drive, Lafayette, Indiana. I moved out there little over 2 years ago. Since then, I've been harassed by someone in the neighborhood about the way I park. Granted, it doesn't really matter since there's no lines or anything how I park, but I park both ways. They say, no, I can't do that. You got to park with the, if I'm coming in Sherwood, I've got to park on the right-hand side. If I'm coming out, I got to park on the left-hand side. Okay, that's fine and dandy. I want to know what I can do to get other people harassed. Because I have complained when the policeman has come out. Can't do that. You got to go by the city ordinance. You got to go by we don't accept personal complaints. You got to go down to police headquarters. I go down to police headquarters, turn in a complaint. No, we don't do that here. You don't have to call it in. I've done anything and everything that has been asked of me. Nothing's been done. I've got everybody in that entire neighborhood parked any way they want. Nothing gets done to them. I go one time parked illegal, and I got a cop sitting on my door 7 o'clock in the morning wanting to know why I'm parked like that. Nobody else is like that. I've got people that's double parked because the street comes around and goes in and out, double parked. Why did they get double parked? There's no room out there, they say. I've got room, they've got room. Why do they get to be double parked? Does not make sense. I've got signs out there because kids play. Supposed to be taken care of. That's been almost a year ago. Nothing's been done. Why? Makes no sense. I had to go to the hospital last year. Called an ambulance. 27 minutes for the ambulance to get there. Why? It's not on the 911 code. Why isn't it on the 911 thing? Everybody else is on 911. Why isn't that area not on 911? And I know that to be a fact. It is not on 911. No way can the fire department or the ambulance or anybody can get out there in a timely manner. It does not make sense.
Where is this Sherwood, sir? I'm not
In the
familiar.
Norma Jean subdivision.
Where?
Lindale.
It's behind Eagles.
Right off 18th and Eagles.
Oh,
Now, like I said, why? It does not make sense. I'm the only one that's getting picked on. I moved out there 2 years ago. I'm in Elling Health. I've got a neighbor across the street. He's in Elling Health. I've got several other neighbors that's handicapped. We're not on the 911. We live on Sherwood Drive. Everything's supposed to be on 911. We're not. If you don't believe me, look it up.
Well, I think that's very interesting. I mean, who's in charge of 911?
I don't know, but I'm just saying.
Not asking
Usually
you.
run through the
I'm
sheriff's
asking-
department, right?
But what I'm saying,
But if you call in 911, it goes through the system. I'm
and
not sure what you mean by you're not on it. What do you mean by that?
it is not on the service call. I called 911. 27 minutes. Why? They went everywhere else in that neighborhood, but they didn't get my street because it's not on 911. It does not make sense. I've called to come to make appointments with the mayor. Granted, he's busy and all that. I've tried to get the chief of police. Granted, he's busy and all that. What can I do? There's nothing I can do. I've got to go through the system. I've done anything and everything. Okay, this is my last resort. I'm down here. I want something done. Is anything going to get done? Probably not, but this is my last choice. From here, I go to Indianapolis. You guys are leaving me no choice. I've done anything and everything over the last 2 years. Nothing's been done. What can't I get done? I've tried to get signs. I've got kids out there playing, not my kids, but kids throughout the neighborhood. I've got people that's handicapped. I can't park anywhere I want. According to the way I read the ordinance, if the thing's marked, I've got to obey by the thing. If it's not marked, I can park either way. It doesn't make a difference. Which way? I'm getting all kinds of things. I can't get an answer. I've been down here several times.
If you'll slow down, maybe we'll get an answer.
Let the chief,
Chief of
Okay.
Police.
Chief's right there.
chief's right here, and he'll
I've
respond.
tried to get him, but
There he
granted,
is.
he's busy.
There he is.
Can't get any closer
Step,
to it.
yeah, step aside.
Patrick Flanley, Chief of Police. This is the first I've heard of it, but I'll be happy to look into it after the meeting.
Okay, thank you very much.
All right.
Thank you very much.
I would have a big concern if for some reason he's been able to, or he can dial 911 and it's not going through to our dispatch center. If it wasn't working, the ambulance would have never showed up. So there's obviously just a little issue there. We'll get it worked out. I'll look into it after the meeting.
Okay, thank you for your comments.
What about everything else?
Well,
Well,
sir,
since there's two issues, and you've talked about, that gentleman is going to take
Yeah,
care
that's
of
fine.
both of the issues,
The 911 and the parking issue.
911 and your parking issue.
So he
Now,
will,
what else is there?
I got signs too.
What signs?
Signs.
Signs.
look into that, but we don't put up a lot of children playing signs anymore because people don't pay attention to them, and it creates a false sense of security for the children, and we don't really replace those much anymore unless it's a really busy street that the traffic counts are extremely high on and the speeds are extremely high, so that may be why nobody's been out there.
That's more than what I've gotten before, you know. Like I said, I have no idea what I can do, because this is my last resort. If I don't get nothing, I go to Indianapolis. I guarantee I will get something down there.
well, thank you for your comments. The police chief will be in contact with you about those issues. Thank you for your comments. Okay, do we have a motion? Anything, any other
public
business
comment?
to take care of?
any other,
Any other public?
is there anybody else out there?
Any other public comments?
I will move we adjourn.
And second.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?